Hi, my name is Karen, and I'm here to tell you a story. Just imagine that I'm sitting across from you, or at the other end of the couch, or that we're just sitting together on the floor. And today, I'm going to read you a story called Kathleen's Casual Friday, which was written by Michele Yurecko. Kathleen sat at her kitchen table as the last sunlight of the day filtered through the window pane and pooled around her daughter. Lydia pulled her chin down and peered at her mother with a sour expression. "Pay attention," Lydia gravely drawled in an exaggerated imitation of her boss. "When you have a pile of documents that are each held together by a paperclip, it is essential that you stagger the clips so that they fall in a diagonal when the pages are stacked. If you apply paper clips to the upper left-hand corners of each document, the stack will be lopsided. I don't want to have to tell you again." Lydia pursed her lips and disapprovingly shook her head. Although Kathleen couldn't help laughing at Lydia's performance, it added to her irritation at the indignities her daughter regularly tolerated at work. Since graduating from college a year ago, Lydia had worked as a paralegal at Strax, Tulloch & Guillory, a prominent local law firm. She reported directly to the senior partner, Robert Strax. Although Lydia was a capable assistant, Mr. Strax was uneasy with her free spirit and seemed to think it was his duty to mold her into a younger version of himself. He was stingy with praise and generous with criticism, firmly believing that the threat of punishment was a better motivator than the expectation of reward. Lydia finally reached her breaking point earlier that week. Bob, as Kathleen preferred to call him, had sent Lydia to the controller's office to help with the firm's strategic plan. While reviewing some data, Lydia learned that she was making several $1,000s less than two male paralegals that had recently been hired. In spite of the fact that all three had graduated college the same year, and Lydia had the most experience and the strongest academic record. "You need to talk to Bob first thing tomorrow morning," Kathleen said. "I know," said Lydia. "Don't put it off," Lydia sighed. "I'm not putting it off." Kathleen nodded. "Just be direct and clear. Tell Bob it's unacceptable that you're being paid less than a couple of puffed-up frat boys. You graduated with a double major—" "Mom," Lydia was getting annoyed. "We've been over this 1,000 times." "I know," Kathleen said. "I just need to make sure—" "Stop micromanaging me," Lydia interrupted. "I can take care of myself. Do you know who you sound like?" Kathleen sat up. "Don't say it." Lydia glared at her. "Mr. Strax." "I am not like that man," Kathleen protested. "Maybe," Lydia sang, "but if you're not careful, you could end up a bossy, miserable fusspot." Lydia took a sip of iced tea. "You know what you need." "Oh, God." Kathleen put her head down. "Seriously, Mom," Lydia pleaded, "you need to channel your energy into your own life. You need to find something or someone to distract you from my problems." Kathleen groaned. At 52, she had a rewarding career as a high school math teacher, a small circle of close friends, and a daughter she adored. Contrary to what Lydia thought, her intense interest was merely a healthy expression of motherly love. "I am not going on Bumble or Match or, God forbid, eHarmony," Kathleen said. "What about Tinder?" "No!" Kathleen gasped. "Do I look like Tinder material?" "Maybe if you undid a couple of buttons and tried smiling," Lydia muttered. "Enough. I'm not interested. There are very few 55-year-old men who want to date me, and even fewer whom I want to date." 55? You're only 52. "That's my cutoff," Kathleen said. 55 to 59. "What?" exclaimed Lydia. "That's crazy. Your dating window needs to be wider." She picked up her phone and started typing and scrolling. "Check out this guy. Brandon with the twinkling eyes. He's divorced, an electrical engineer, no kids. Ooh, he likes cooking. You like to eat. He's 42 and lives nearby. Swipe right." "No!" Kathleen shook her head. Oh, wait, Lydia frowned. Here's a picture of him at Coachella. Maybe 42 is too young for you, but seriously, you've got to lower your minimum age to at least 48. Kathleen slumped down and sighed. When Lydia came downstairs the following morning, Kathleen was surprised to see her in jeans. Honey, if you're going to confront Bob today, do you really think you should wear jeans to work? Lydia poured herself some coffee and replied with a yawn. Today starts Friday dress-down days for summer. Believe it or not, Mr. Strax loves casual Friday. I think wearing jeans and a polo shirt to the office makes him feel rebellious. If I dress up, he would probably take it as an insult, like I was trying to imply that I was better than him. Good. Maybe you should wear a suit, Kathleen suggested. Mom, let me handle this. A blazer? No. Lydia snapped the lid on her travel mug. Kathleen sighed. Don't forget, I'm coming to take you to lunch to celebrate the end of the school year. Also, I really want to meet Bob. Absolutely not. Lydia closed the back door behind her. A few hours later, Kathleen eased into a parking space across the street from Strax, Tulloch, and Guillory. The firm was housed in a grand Victorian mansion. Kathleen admired the meticulous and intentional renovation. The entry foyer was brighter and more open than she expected. She was greeted by a cordial receptionist who explained that Lydia was in a meeting and gave Kathleen directions to her office. Kathleen climbed 2 flights of stairs to the 3rd floor, which housed the offices of the 3 senior partners, as well as an executive lavatory. Lydia had laughed when she recounted how Mr. Strax refused to allow any of the paralegals to use the partners' private bathroom. As she passed the lavatory door, Kathleen bristled at Bob's insistence that her daughter walk down 2 flights of stairs in order to use the ladies' room. Lydia's office was the small anterior room of a massive suite. Mr. Strax occupied the large interior office. Kathleen took a seat beside Lydia's desk. The floor felt empty and quiet, and she decided to take the opportunity to check out Bob's office. When she peered through the doorway, she was shocked to see someone was there. A tall man wearing jeans and a t-shirt was casually leaning on the edge of the desk. He was balding, his remaining hair close-cropped, with a pencil tucked behind one ear. Deeply absorbed in the contents of a small spiral notebook, he did not look up until he heard Kathleen catch her breath. "Excuse me," she said flatly. "I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm waiting for Lydia." "I think the meeting's over," he said. "She's probably ran downstairs to use the bathroom." Kathleen sniffed. "It's ridiculous that the one up here is off limits." The man shrugged. "We can't let just anyone use the executive lab. Besides," he chuckled smugly, "bathroom privileges need to be earned." Kathleen was appalled, her mouth hanging open at his arrogance. She stood there for a long moment, debating whether or not to say something. "You all right?" he asked. Without thinking of the consequences, she spat, "Who the hell do you think you are?" The man looked shocked. He opened his mouth to speak, but Kathleen cut him off. "Are you such an insecure control freak that you get your rocks off by dictating where my daughter can pee? Let me tell you something. You're lucky to have her. You're lucky that someone as capable and talented as Lydia is willing to tolerate your bullshit. I've wanted her to quit for weeks, but she loves her job so much that she's willing to put up with a fussy, insecure narcissist for a boss. Not only is Lydia smart and creative, but she has a kind heart and treats people with common human decency, unlike you. She has more than earned the right to shit in your precious toilet, you obnoxious baby man." "Mom!" Kathleen turned to find Lydia at the door, followed by a short, stocky man with curly black hair. He looked alarmed as he hitched up the waistband of his neatly pressed khakis. "What are you doing?" Lydia asked urgently. Pointing to the man at the desk, Kathleen said, "I'm sorry, Lydia, but your boss is an asshole, and I couldn't stand by and let him insult you." Lydia gritted her teeth and took a deep breath through flared nostrils. "This is my boss," she gestured to the man behind her. "You're yelling like a maniac at Lewis." our handyman." Kathleen gasped. She looked Mr. Strax up and down and without thinking said, "I expected you to be bald." A few hours later, Kathleen found herself filled with remorse, seated alone on a park bench. Lydia was furious with her, and with good reason. Kathleen had humiliated herself, embarrassed her daughter, mocked her daughter's boss, screamed obscenities at an innocent bystander, and pretty much insulted bald men everywhere. Before throwing Kathleen out of her office, Lydia told her mother that she had already met with her boss that morning, negotiating a raise for herself and executive lavatory access for all third-floor staff. She also refused to continue calling him Mr. Strax. He said that was fine, but preferred Robert to Bob. Kathleen hugged herself tightly and looked up at the sky. Clearly, Lydia knew what she was doing. Perhaps she was right about everything. Was Kathleen's interest in Lydia's problems just an excuse to avoid her own? She wondered how she was going to fix things when her phone pinged. It was a text from Lydia. "Do you want to meet for dinner?" Kathleen texted back, "Yes. I also want to apologize for what I did to you." "Good," Lydia texted. "Meet me at 6. An hour later, Kathleen found Lydia waiting for her at the bar of the restaurant. She walked over and took her daughter's hand. "Before you say anything," Kathleen said, "I just want to apologize for doubting you. You are clearly capable of taking care of yourself, and that includes knowing when to ask for my help. I convinced myself that I was helping you when I was really interfering in order to make myself feel better. I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm sorry I embarrassed you. Most of all, I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you." "Thanks, Mom," Lydia smiled. "I appreciate that." "I didn't get you fired, did I?" said Kathleen. "No," Lydia laughed. "Don't get me wrong, Robert thinks you're a lunatic, but he seems to be really impressed by how I handled everything." Kathleen sighed with relief and tightly squeezed Lydia's hand. She stood up and said, "Let's get some dinner." Lydia blushed. "I'm not having dinner with you." Kathleen's face fell. "Why not? I understand if you're still mad at me, but we should talk about it." "It's not that." Lydia looked down at her shoes and took a deep breath. "I'm not staying for dinner, but you are. You have a date with Louis. He's waiting for you at the table inside." Kathleen staggered back. Lydia grabbed her by the shoulders. "You're going to be fine, Mom. He's really nice. He feels bad about making that joke about the executive bathroom and wants to buy you dinner. He liked the way you attacked him to defend me." Kathleen shook her head. "I can't do this, Lydia." Lydia looked her mother in the eye. "Yes, you can. Just march right in there and sit down." Lydia turned her mother toward the dining room. Kathleen's eyes grew wide, and she held her breath. She took a tentative step forward. "You're going to be great, Mom," Lydia encouraged. Kathleen stood up a little straighter and started walking. "One more thing," Lydia called out. "You probably don't want to ask him how old he is." The end. That was, let me get this right. Kathleen's Casual Friday by Michele Yurecko. I hope you guys liked today's story. Thank you for sitting with me. And if you would like some information about Michele, you can find it below. And if you have a story that you'd like me to read on the channel, there's contact info for that as well provided. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you'll be back next time.